The following program is sponsored by CBN.
Coming up, the other side of the border crisis.
I never imagined this would happen.
Migrants share why they're leaving their homes and headed towards America.
This is now a matter of life and death.
Plus, a world champion roper
won over $1.5 million in professional rodeo.
Reveals the secret to how he won the gold.
And it took me a long time to realize that.
On today's 700 Club.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you're like me, you're welcoming to the 700 Club. And let me tell you, I'm so tired of hearing about this thing. Do the Democrats want to close ICE down? Do they want to have all these illegals flooding into the country? Do they want to take jobs away from people? What is going on? Well, they're negotiating now about how many beds they can have in a detention center. And is the president going to have to sign that bill? They're going to give him a little bit for the border wall, which he says is essential, and they say no way. It's just incredible what's going on. And the one thing I want to say emphatically to you right now, we cannot shut the government down. It just hurts too many people. It leaves too much uncertainty, and it's too much confusion. And on top of that, we've got to raise the spending limit, or else our credit will go bad and we can't borrow any money. So this standoff has got to stop. But the president is heading today to El Paso del Norte. That was the way to the north. El Paso del Norte. He's going down to rally support, and with days to go before what could be another government shutdown. Negotiations in Congress, they say, have now stalled. We can't have it, ladies and gentlemen. We're the greatest nation on the face of the earth, and this makes us look like a banana republic. Terry.
Lawmakers were shooting for a Monday deadline, but over the weekend, Democrats threw in a new demand. Amber Strong has the latest on the negotiations.
The president is headed to El Paso, Texas, to gather support for his border wall. And it looks like he's going to need it, as weekend talks between lawmakers ended in a stalemate.
I'll say 50-50, we get a deal.
I think the big problem here is this has become pretty much an ego negotiation.
The latest fight is over the number of detention beds for undocumented immigrants. Democrats want to limit the amount. A cap on ICE detention beds will force the Trump administration to prioritize deportation for criminals and people who pose real security threats, said Democratic Congresswoman Lucille Roybal Allard. Republicans disagree, and some see it as part of a larger strategy to undercut ICE.
You're actually incentivizing more illegal immigration by reducing the bed space, and it undercuts any money you would get for a wall.
Then there's the $5.7 billion the president requested to build the wall. It's looking to be about half. The president took to Twitter with his frustrations, writing, "They are offering very little money for the desperately needed border wall."
You cannot take a shutdown off the table, and you cannot take 5.7 off the table. But if you end up someplace in the middle, then what you probably see is the president say, yeah, okay, and then I'll go find the money someplace else.
That someplace else? A combination of legal funds and monies taken from other departments. The question is, will he declare a national emergency to do so?
And there's pots of money where all presidents have access to without a national emergency, right. And there's ones that he will not have access to without that declaration.
But a national emergency may not bode well with his GOP colleagues. Meanwhile, the fate of 800,000 federal workers hangs in the balance again.
Seeing another shutdown just a couple days away on the horizon, I think, is scary for anybody.
And in what could be a preview to 2020, President Trump will hold that rally there in El Paso. And at the same time, former Congressman Beto O'Rourke will hold his own rally to show what he calls the realities of the border. Amber Strong, CBN News in Washington.
Well, CBN Chief Political Analyst David Brody is with us. David, there's just no way the president can shut the government down. I mean, it'll be devastating, don't you think?
Oh, I think it's going to be a major PR hit for sure, and devastating, obviously, to folks that would obviously be out of work at that point. I don't think it's going to happen, Pat. I don't think there's going to be another shutdown. I think this White House understands that they can't go through that again. So what does it mean exactly? Well, let's start with this. Some of the sources I'm talking to this morning say We're not quite sure how this is going to play out exactly, though the shutdown doesn't seem to necessarily be an option. It sounds to me like what may happen here, two potential solutions here. I say solutions. One could be a stopgap measure. We've heard this again and again, where they extend this another week or two to continue to hammer out a deal. That could be possible. Or, look, the president does indeed go the national emergency route. But beyond that, beyond the national emergency route, remember, there's some money in there that wouldn't be subject to a legal challenge. There's Section 284 of the U.S. Code that talks about the Defense Department can actually does have authority to build certain fencing in America. So that's what Mick Mulvaney was talking about specifically, to say that, look, there is the national emergency. That'll be the legal challenge. But there are some other avenues where he can actually use some of that money that's already approved by Congress that the president has a jurisdiction to do.
Why do you think the Democrats are objecting to detaining illegal immigrants? What is in their mind?
Well, boy, I tell you what, it is a gamble. I'll tell you that much. I mean, this is a party that has kind of started to go off the rails to the far left, leaving Donald Trump with a huge opening in 2020. Look, I think that they're frustrated that basically this interior enforcement that we hear a lot about. In other words, the fact that the Trump administration has ICE, folks from ICE going around the country rounding up undocumented immigrants from time to time. They want to stop that if they're not violent criminals. Now, the truth of the matter is, if you look at some of the statistics, roughly or so, 80 to 90% of folks that ICE arrests are actually either violent criminals or something along those lines. So it's not just a group of 6 or 7 undocumented or illegal immigrants around the country that have done nothing wrong. So I think that's kind of the rub. Look, I think ultimately Democrats here have a real problem. I also think that if they're going to give, the Democrats, are going to give any money to Donald Trump for this wall, a fence, a barrier, we've talked about this before, steel slats, that they want to get something in return. And this is how they want to try to, in essence, come back against the Trump administration's policy on immigration.
Well, Trump has offered, as I understand, the legal status for the Dreamers, which I think everybody would like to see. I mean, what's the status of that? Wouldn't that not please the Democrats, do you think?
Well, twice now, at least. It's actually been at least twice that President Trump has pretty much offered protection for the Dreamers. The Democrats have turned it down. Look, this has been, Pat, as you know, I mean, with the Democrats, this has been no wall funding, period, end, and that's the bottom line. What's interesting here is it looks like part of this deal actually could give some wall funding. Now, the Democrats will never call it wall funding. They'll call it some additional fencing, but fences, walls, here we go again. It's semantics, steel slats. The bottom line is that there is going to be some new fencing built, most likely, here. Even if it's not under the national emergency, it's going to be done as part of some sort of agreement whenever they come to some sort of agreement, which we don't know at this point.
The Democrats look like they're moving so far to the left. This so-called Green Deal that they've unveiled is just incredible. I mean, that young congresswoman from New York is just off the rails, saying she wants to ban air travel. She wants to ban the use of fossil fuels. I mean, it'll make our electric bills go up probably 6 times what they are now. Who's in charge of that stuff?
Well, I have to tell you, in a real way, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is in charge of that stuff. And because she has the most dynamic Twitter and Facebook feeds and all of that on social media, she is driving the Democrat Party right now, and everybody pretty much is following her lead. Here's the problem. She may be leading them right off a cliff. I mean, look, 2020 comes along, and if they're going to go far, far left, whether it be the Green New Deal, which, as you mentioned, basically wants to have high rail systems in the United States rather than airplanes because they want to get rid of 100% of fossil fuels and make 100% renewable energy. In essence, we would be dependent on the wind and the sun. Good luck with that. The point is that they're far left. And then you look at the polls. An NBC News poll recently, Pat, just says that 19% of Americans are okay with socialism, which, by the way, is actually kind of high and a bit scary. But still, it's 19%. It is far to the left. It gives Donald Trump a huge opportunity to basically paint them as socialist and go into 2020 saying, look, I want to make America great again. And they want to make America socialist for the first time. And I think that's the contour of the 2020 race that's shaping up.
Well, Trump can always point to Venezuela. Have you got any update on what's going on there? That it looked like Maduro was on the way out, and then he's hardening his stance.
All of the White House sources that I'm talking to keep on saying the same thing as we press them, which is all options are on the table, whether that be military or otherwise. And it's a smart move by the Trump administration. But I think ultimately you can be sure that Donald Trump is going to bring up Venezuela as part of that socialism narrative that he's going to try to push.
Senator Warren, there's an application she made at a school, and she listed herself, her ethnic background was, quote, American Indian. How can she possibly run for president with that nonsense? And now Amy Klobuchar has joined in a snowstorm over the weekend, and it was freezing cold, and she was out there with no coat on. Is there anybody that looks like they're serious contenders, or is he going to go to Joe Biden?
Well, there's so many things to unpack there. First of all, it is kind of interesting. Amy Klobuchar was talking about global warming during the middle of a snowstorm, so that wasn't the best optics for Amy Klobuchar, for sure. As for Elizabeth Warren, look, she has been labeled, and you know what it is, Pat, Pocahontas by President Trump. And what we know in politics is that when the narrative starts to form for you, for better or for worse, that's it. Game, set, match. For President Obama, it worked well. He was the hope and change candidate. For, quote, Lion Ted and Little Marco and all of that, it didn't work out so well. And so Elizabeth Warren has a perception problem right from the beginning. It's going to be very hard for her to overcome. Democrats are telling me privately that there's a long time. We'll see. I think they're obviously pretty optimistic on that. As for Amy Klobuchar, she'll be interesting to watch. There is this report out there, multiple reports now, about how she doesn't treat her staff very well. That may be an understatement, but that narrative is starting to form about her. Look, here's the thing. Amy Klobuchar, when you look at the progressive scale, you've got grade A's when it comes to what the progressives like, from Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren and Cory Booker. They're all A's with the progressives. Amy Klobuchar gets a C rating. She's a little bit more moderate. And so we'll see if that is going to work better or worse in 2020. I don't think the C rating is going to play very well the way the Democrat Party is heading.
Well, Trump is licking his chops and rubbing his hands with glee over this field. There aren't any of them capable of opposing him. Again, back to Joe Biden. Joe's a little old, and he has that problem with the Neil Kinnock stuff that went on when he was first being considered. Is he serious? You think he's a real nice guy? I mean, Joe, he's Mr. Average Man, and everybody likes him.
Right. Yeah, he's Mr. Average Man, and he's pretty authentic, even if you disagree with him. So I believe, and I believe I've said it here, Pat, but I got to tell you, I think the only Democrat in America that can probably beat Donald Trump is Joe Biden. Why? Because Democrats lost the white, middle-class, blue-collar vote. Many of those were Democrats. Joe Biden probably has the best chance to get them back. They are more liberal on economic policy, but more social on, more conservative on social issues. And even though Joe Biden isn't necessarily social on conservative issues, he does speak their language a little bit more. He's very rough and tumble. He'll get in the gutter with Trump if he has to. And here's most importantly, we talked about Elizabeth Warren, about branding. Joe Biden, you can't brand the guy. He's already branded. Donald Trump won't be able to do too much with him, whereas he could do a lot with many of the other candidates.
David, thank you very much. You know, I remember when I was in the arena, and Joe Biden and I both went on the same plane, as I recall. We're on the way to New Hampshire. He was going for a Democratic primary. I was going for a Republican. I got killed in New Hampshire. He didn't do too badly either. But yeah, he's an interesting guy, but he is a little long in the tooth, and that plagiarism thing will probably hang around him. But he's the only one, and they're talking now about the wife of the former president as a contender. You know, there's a big news story about her today.
Really? Wow.
Isn't it crazy?
It's very crazy.
I don't think the Democrats have anybody. Well, the Democrats have their problems in Virginia, too. That political crisis could get worse. Mark Martin has more of that from our CBN newsroom.
That's right, Pat. A Virginia lawmaker backed off a plan to introduce an impeachment bill today, seeking the removal of the second most powerful officer in the state. Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax is facing allegations of sexual assault. This as the governor and state attorney general are embroiled in their own scandals. Both admitted wearing blackface in the 1980s. But despite calls from state and national Democrats, Governor Ralph Northam says he won't resign.
Virginia needs someone that can heal. There's no better person to do that than a doctor. Virginia also needs someone who is strong, who has empathy, who has courage, and who has a moral compass. And that's why I'm not going anywhere. I have learned from this. I have a lot more to learn.
If the governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general all left office, the Speaker of the House, who is a Republican, would then become governor. Pat?
Well, you know, the Democrats are kind of stuck. I mean, if they get rid of a black lieutenant governor, even if he's guilty of sexual assault, and it seems like the witnesses against him were extremely credible, nevertheless, you've got two white guys standing, and it looks, the perception is that they've taken out a black man and left two white Democrats standing. And that's going to be a problem. And the Attorney General is one who, in my opinion, you know, was really deceitful to the electorate. He indicated before he ran that he was going to uphold the laws as Attorney General. First move was that he refused to defend the right to marriage or the Defense of Marriage Act in Virginia or in the nation. And he lied. And so he deserves what he gets, but they've got him on a blackface thing too, which I think is minimal considering the gravity of his deceit. But anyhow, the state, it's disgraceful. Virginia was known as the mother of presidents. This was the ground of great liberty. You've got Patrick Henry, you've got Madison, you've got John Marshall, you've got Thomas Jefferson. You've got these great men from the state of Virginia, and now you've got this ridiculous kabuki theater going on in Richmond. It makes me sick as a Virginian. I mean, I just gotta say, how could it have happened to the state that we love? Mark?
Pat, in other news, Republican Congressman Walter Jones of North Carolina passed away Sunday. His congressional office said Jones was a dedicated Christian who stood up for Americans who needed a voice for the military and their families. He also fought hard to see the Johnson Amendment repealed. That law denies tax-exempt status to any organization, including houses of worship, for endorsing or opposing political candidates. Jones went into hospice after his health declined after breaking a hip last month. He died on his 76th birthday. North Carolina's Democratic Governor Roy Cooper will schedule a special election to fill his seat. Pat?
Thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's part of the news, but I tell you, all I can say is hang on to your seats and do an awful lot of praying because this country needs it. Terry?
Well, up next, they're leaving behind homes with dirt floors and cardboard walls and risking their lives to reach the United States.
Central America and Mexico have become a cemetery for immigrants. It is about guaranteeing life. We are human beings. We are not animals.
CBN News goes beyond the border to see why migrants are linking up with immigrant caravans. So don't go away.
Well, a few years ago, there was news of a coup in the nation of Guatemala. And a man named Rios Montt, who was a general and a member of El Verbo Church, he's a spirit-filled Christian, had taken authority and was now the president of Guatemala. Well, I flew down there to meet him and was very impressed with what I saw. He was an extraordinary man. He lived very simply. He rejected the tremendous salary they were paying the president. He took just a small amount. He lived on a general's pay rather than I think it was $10 or $12 million a year that they were paying the president. And he put in tremendous reforms. But the left hated him, and they launched a campaign against him and claimed that he was using violence against the native population and that he was a thug and all this kind of thing. Wonderful man. Well, we also saw a resurgence of Christianity, of evangelical Christianity in Guatemala. As I recall, well over 50% of the people had now become born-again Christians. Amazing country, and it was just wonderful as I met with various ones from Guatemala. And now it looks like the country is in all kinds of chaos. And I, for one, can't understand what happened. But here's the story. The crisis on our southern border is just a reflection of a bigger problem that's taking place all over Central America, not only Guatemala, but Honduras, etc. And they're living now in fear and poverty. And many are desperate to escape their own countries, and they're willing to risk their lives on a hazardous journey for the dream of a better life. But they want to come to America, and America, as warm-hearted as we are, you know, they say you're a nation of immigrants, and you came to a country and you were immigrants. But the truth is, North America wasn't very populated in those days. It wasn't a country full of people and cities and houses and all that. There were some Native Americans, we call them Indians, and Native Americans who lived here, but they were small in number. And so when the European settlers came in, they weren't necessarily invading a populated country. But America is a densely populated country with about 350 million people. And we cannot afford to be invaded by South America. We can't afford it. It just can't happen. We can't give health care. We can't give free education to all the poor people of the world. No nation can do that. Well, we asked Jennifer Wishon, who does great work, to go to Guatemala and bring us a story about what's happening there. And here she is.
For many Central Americans, their journey to the U.S. begins on a path like this. Tens of thousands leave these bleak neighborhoods with homes made of little more than cardboard walls and dirt floors, places where one of the most promising prospects includes joining a violent gang. Most everyone hoping to escape wants the same thing.
A better future, and for them to have what I never had since my childhood.
Heidi Garcia Benitez left Honduras with her young daughter and toddler son. Honduras has one of the world's highest murder rates. The State Department cautions Americans against traveling there. Benitez's brother paid a coyote or guide to take them through Guatemala and Mexico to the U.S. border. It was her first time leaving her country.
He told me we were going to make a stop here in Guatemala, but he just left me here. He said he was going to run an errand downtown, and he never came back, and he didn't leave me any money.
It's the victimizing of these migrants seeking a better life, often discussed by President Trump and other leaders.
I never imagined this would happen. I only had a bag with clothes for myself and my children, and our documents. That's all.
She was fortunate to end up here, an immigration house in Guatemala City. Juan Luis Carvajal Tejeda is a Catholic priest who runs it. Each night, as many as 30 people stay here. It's a welcome refuge for migrants headed to the border or back home after being deported.
Some of them have already been robbed, abandoned. They are in need. It is the most basic human need to offer a safe place.
This is a typical room at the immigration house. It has 10 beds. Immigrants are allowed to stay here for about 2 weeks. And at this house, the need is so great, they're hoping to add a third level. Tejeda and his staff helped Albina Suarez get in touch with her sister after the 23-year-old was caught crossing the U.S. border illegally and deported.
The journey here was hard. There was a stretch of desert where we had no water, nothing to eat. From there we got cab and they took us to immigration.
She has access to a psychologist at the immigration house. Maria Reyes talks to migrants about their frustrations, any trauma suffered on their journeys, and tries to help get them information or documents they need. Given more than half of Guatemala's population lives in poverty and its children are among the world's most malnourished, Reyes doesn't counsel against trying to achieve a better life.
We tell them and remind them of the risks. Luckily, they are alive, but will they be as fortunate this time? We talk about those things, the advantages and disadvantages of making another attempt.
Reyes, Tejeda, and many other Central Americans compare this current migration to the U.S. to that from Europe around the birth of the nation. They have a hard time understanding why today's Americans don't welcome Central American migrants as Europeans were once embraced.
Central America and Mexico have become a cemetery for immigrants. This is now a matter of life and death. It is about guaranteeing life. We are human beings. We are not animals. We are not dogs.
After her ordeal, Suarez made a difficult decision.
I don't plan to go back to the United States. Now, what I'm going to do is work and get ahead in life.
Benitez tells CBN News she'll try to get a job in Guatemala since she thinks it's safer than Honduras. Then, after making some money, she'll try again to get her family across the U.S. border.
Thankfully, God has not abandoned me. He has not let go of my hand. In the time I've been here in Guatemala, I have found good people who have helped me with my children, and I thank God for this house.
No matter which path migrants choose, Tejeda and his staff pray they all eventually find their way. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, Guatemala City.
Those people are wonderful people in Guatemala, and so Honduras, the vice chairman of the military came to be here on this program with us. He was one to the Lord watching our television program in Honduras. Highly decorated general, and they're not oppressors. I don't understand what's going on in any of those countries.
Well, the crime rate in Honduras is the big thing right now, where they're telling Americans don't travel.
No. Well, I mean, it must be communist agitators, because the government is not necessarily oppressive, is what I have seen. I was in Tegucigalpa, which is the head. I mean, there weren't these problems, and something has happened over the last few years, but it's exacerbated by the fact that all these people are now flooding. They're going from one country through Guatemala, then they're going through Mexico, then they're trying to get to our border, and there's not room enough for them here, and it's a humanitarian crisis that's building up. And I tell you, the Congress has got to sit down as fellow human beings and say, we're going to address this crisis, and we're going to stop being Democrats and stop being pro-Trump Republicans, and we're going to be human beings, and we're going to deal with this crisis the most humane way we can, and we're going to get it fixed. But we can't, this thing that's going on right now is just absurd. Because these people we hold out hope that they'll get in with a better life. And, again, El Paso, it used to be called the Pass to the North. El Paso del Norte was that place in Texas where the president's going to be. And they're dueling. Beto was trying to play his game down there. And so the two of them are clashing in their vision of what needs to be done. But once again, we are human beings, and these people are human beings, and we need to deal with them. But this country cannot absorb all these people. We can't give them all free health care. But what I've suggested, that maybe for the Democrats, Trump ought to load up buses with as many of those migrants as he can, take them all to Chuck Schumer's district in New York, and let them out at his doorstep, and then take them to Nancy Pelosi's house in that exclusive walled-off community where she lives in San Francisco with her multi-million-dollar husband, and let them see these immigrants up close and personal. I think it might make a difference. That might be a bit extreme, but why not? I mean, everything else is extreme. Terry?
Well, up next, he's one of the most decorated athletes in professional rodeo, but it wasn't always like that.
I lived in the backseat of my truck for a long time. I would travel from rodeo to rodeo to rodeo, and it was miserable, but in the midst of all that, I found happiness because I was chasing my dream.
See how this cowboy made it to the top when we come back.
You ever watch one of those rodeos? Man, the bucking broncos and the bull riding and everything is all exciting, but it's very dangerous. If there was anyone who was born to be a rodeo star, it's Tyson Durfee. As a kid, a normal day would mean getting up at 4:30, flanking the calves, shoeing horses, and then going to school, and then coming home to rope and ride until midnight. And even still, he didn't become a champion until a lesson he learned outside the rodeo ring.
I've been 11 times to the National Finals Rodeo, won over $1.5 million in professional rodeo. I'm a 3-time Canadian national champion, was the first American in history to ever do that. I won the American Championship in 2014. I was the world champion in 2016, and since then I've been pretty much consistently in the top 5 in the world.
Tyson Durfee is one of professional rodeo's best and brightest stars in the high-stakes sport of competitive calf roping. His family has been involved in professional rodeo for generations, but his journey to the top of his field has been anything but easy.
I rodeoed in a borrowed trailer. I had a borrowed horse. I lived in the backseat of my truck for a long time. I would travel from rodeo to rodeo to rodeo, and I'd bum showers here, I'd bum showers there, and it was miserable, but in the midst of all that, I found happiness because I was chasing my dream.
His parents divorced when he was young, and in his early teens, Tyson moved in with his father. Their relationship was tense and volatile.
A 16-year-old kid, I want to do things my way. I'm smarter than you, Dad, which I wasn't, but we started to butt heads. He was kind of like a wild cowboy outlaw. We fought. We fought a lot. You know, there was nothing easy about it. Dad was an alcoholic. You know, some nights he would drink till he passed out. I hate to say it, but I really hated him. The last memory that stuck in my head from me and my dad was, you know, us getting into a fight and me thinking that I was going to choke him to death. You know, it's a tough deal to even talk about it, really.
Hatred towards his father consumed Tyson for years. Then in his 20s, he met a Christian couple who often volunteered to feed the cowboys at the rodeos. They showed him a different way to live.
They'd give you a free Bible. They would give you a kind word if you were down. They would feed you. Heck, they would probably even wash your feet. You know, they literally were the epitome of what a Christian life should be. They would do anything to spread the word of Christ. And I watched their ministry for 9 years, watching these people give their heart and soul to all the cowboys that would come through, literally thousands.
Tyson began reading the Bible and studying the life and words of Jesus.
I started out with James. I wanted to learn about wisdom, controlling my temper. Then I go to Proverbs, and I'm learning all this cool stuff. I'm like, this book is amazing, you know? And he just pulled me a little bit.
Then in 2012, he was ready to make a change.
I decided 100%, that I was giving my life to God and that I would do no matter what it took to serve His kingdom. I got baptized in a stock tank. At Houston Rodeo, of all places, get baptized in a stock tank. I come up out of the water and I just feel like this massive release of everything. Like no more weight on my shoulders, like I feel maybe like the presence of God or the Holy Spirit descended on me or something, because I just felt like I just completely let everything go. There was nothing holding me back. There were no negative thoughts. And at the end, I was shaking and shivering and I'm completely soaking and I'm standing in a cold water tank. But it was the best night of my life. I can truly say, above the birth of my daughter, above the marriage of my wife, that was the coolest night of my life because I gave my heart and my soul to Jesus Christ.
Tyson knew he needed to forgive his dad, and on the way to his next rodeo, he made a phone call.
And I said, Dad, I just want to forgive you for everything that you've done to me, and I want you to forgive me for all the things I've done to you, because this is a two-way thing. And we had a great conversation, and that was the day I truly forgave my dad for everything that ever happened in our childhood. To experience Christ and let all that go is liberating. You know, you feel like the devil's not got a hold of you anymore. You feel like the weight of the world is off your shoulders, that you can go and be a model for other people to live Christ-like.
The following season was a tough one for Tyson, and he failed to qualify for the national finals. But he says God helped him refocus and receive the mindset of a champion.
I finally decided that I am a child of God, and He wants me to be a world champion so that I can give all the glory back to His kingdom. And that paradigm shift changed the way I trained, changed the way I thought. I knew that God had gold for me. God wants you to be the absolute best that you can possibly be. And it took me a long time to realize that.
The very next season, in 2014, Tyson won the American Championship. Then in 2016, he became the world champion. But he says all the awards and prize money don't compare to the new life and legacy he started the day he gave his life to Christ.
I know my kids are going to grow up in a godly house. I'm going to model godly behavior in front of them. They're going to go to church every Sunday, but not just church. We're going to study the Bible together as a family. What good is it to gain the world and lose your soul? You might have $1 million in the bank, you might have $2 million in the bank, but if you sacrifice the lives of your kids to get that money, or you put work ahead of them, it just doesn't work, it's empty. You put Him ahead of everything, He will bless you in more ways than you could possibly imagine.
It's liberating. Now, you won't necessarily be a rodeo champion. You might not be a Miss America. You might not be the fastest person on earth or any of those things. You might not be batting 300 or 400 on baseball or whatever. But if you know the Lord, it's liberating. You're set free to be what you could be. And God has a plan for every one of us. He has a plan for you. And He says, I know the plan that I have for you, plans to do you good and not evil, plans to lift you up and not put you down. God's got a plan for you. And all He needs you to do is just be free. And Tyson learned that. It was wonderful. And he's a rodeo champion. And man, that's tough. Terry, to jump off a horse, ride at full speed, jump off a horse, grab a rope a calf, grab him and tie him up and do it all in about 11 to 12 seconds.
Just to grab him and be able to get him down on the
ground. Oh, that's right. I mean, that's but you got to, not only that, you got to tie all four of his legs together and you've got to get off the horse and to get him out there in time. And I mean, you're talking about 10, 12 seconds. Yeah. And that's how come you get to be a world champion. Amazing athlete. But the biggest thing, he's found the Lord. Mm-hmm. Terry, you've got a good story.
Well, I do. Coming up, it's a pushback on our hookup world. See why one millennial is taking a dating time out when we come back.
And welcome to Newsbreak. New Jersey is now the second state in the nation to require schools to teach LGBTQ history. Under the new law, public school teachers must include lessons about the political, social, and economic contributions of gay and transgender people. It was modeled after a California law that's been in place since 2011. New Jersey Governor Democrat Phil Murphy says he was honored to sign the legislation into law. In other news, White House senior advisor Jared Kushner heads to the Middle East this month to push for peace. Kushner will make stops in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates to present details of the president's economic Middle East peace plan. According to Politico, the plan will in part create economic incentives for Palestinians. It is a plan that Kushner has been overseeing for nearly 2 years. You can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com. Pat and Terry will be back with more of the 700 Club right after this.
We are seeing the rise of the so-called Tinder generation, where casual hookups are just a swipe right away. It seems that no-string sex and one-night stands have become the norm. But that doesn't mean that everyone is on board.
In college, Ashley Key thought it was okay to be physically intimate with a guy she was dating. But deep down, she knew her actions weren't lining up with her faith. After breaking up with her boyfriend, Ashley decided to be in a monogamous relationship with God. Today, Ashley is still single but thriving. She's a digital media producer here at CBN and helps others with her story of unhooking herself from a hooked-up world.
Well, Ashley is no stranger to our studio. Ashley, we thank you for being here. You really are here every day.
I know. Thank you so much for having me.
So interesting that this is all coming to pass as we await the arrival of Valentine's Day this week. What are you going to be doing for Valentine's Day?
I'm going to be enjoying where God has me, honestly. I am working hard on this campaign called Unhooked, Holy in a Hookup World, and I'm just praying that, hearts are transformed as well as lives. So,
you as a younger woman live in an atmosphere in our culture today where being willing to hook up without the commitment, without the relationship is kind of the norm. Mm-hmm. Have you gotten much kickback from this decision to kind of take a pass on dating for a while?
Yes, in some ways. As I've, continued to date others, sometimes it just doesn't work out when you find out that you aren't on the same page and you don't have the same convictions regarding that. But I just am persistent in where the Lord has called me, the convictions that He's given me, because I know He's got me ultimately.
So what does this look like for you? If I'm a guy and I meet you somewhere and I'm attracted to you and I say, do you want to have dinner one night or something? What do you do?
I mean, right now in my life, sure. If I don't have any hesitations, if I feel it's
so
right.
So you're not dating?
Yes, yeah. So right now I'm open. However, I did take a year off of dating.
Mm-hmm. And what did that do for your perspective? Because a year is a long time. I mean, yeah. I'm sure the Lord did some things in your heart and mind during that year.
Mm-hmm. It honestly just created, before I went on the whole 1 year of no dating, I was just constantly seeking. I was constantly kind of forcing relationships to work because I just wanted it so bad. I wanted my husband, my mom and my sister found their spouses early in life. So I just assumed that it would happen to me. And when it didn't, it was kind of a hard pill to swallow. And so I just really felt the Lord convict me and just kind of called me to just stop, just take a year, just press the pause button, really focus on me, really be content with me first and foremost. Seek me first in all that you do, and then I'll give you the desires of your heart.
So practically speaking, how did things change for you during that year? What did you do that put you in a place of actually putting God first and making Him a priority?
Honestly, it took the pressure off. It just took the pressure that I was putting on myself, I just felt so much more at peace where God has me, where He had me during that year. Practically, it was just saying no to things. If people had reached out to me, it was just kind of, I put boundaries in place where I was like, you know what? No, I'm not going to flirt. I'm not going to date. I'm not going to go on, if someone messaged me, I'm not going to respond. Yeah. So those are practical things that I did, but it really just got me to a place of contentment and just peace. And it was an opportunity for me to surrender that area of my life because it was an area of my life that I was just kind of not doing things in a healthy way. Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, Christian or not Christian, say that the reason they date so consistently is because they want to know, they want to kind of test the water, if you will, to find out, what should my future spouse look like? How do I know him or her when I see them? How do you respond to that?
Dating is healthy. Dating is great. I have nothing against dating. However, with my story, it was an unhealthy cycle I had put myself in where I was trying to force things and not really trusting the Lord fully. So I just encourage people to maybe do that, with the Unhooked campaign where we have a 40-day devotional where we're asking people to take a break, push the pause button, to really refocus and heal. And because during that year, I had to process things and I healed, and it just put me in a place now where I'm much more open and willing to open my heart up.
It's been kind of a cliche, I'm told. Of course, I haven't been dating for a long time, but for someone to say that they're only seeing Jesus this season.
Yeah. I mean, really,
I imagine that had shut down a few invitations.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. I mean, yeah, it was kind of like that, but it's deeper than that too. Mm-hmm.
So what do you, in this campaign, tell me about the campaign. You mentioned a little bit of what it involves. What are you wanting to people to consider as they contemplate participating in this? And what do you want them to come out with on the other end?
What I want them to consider is their heart. You know, I think a lot of times we are just like I said, seeking and not really putting full thought into it. You know, that's what I was doing. I was very passive. And doing the full 1 year no dating, and I think what people will walk away from the 40-day intimacy fast is just making better choices, wiser choices with the Lord, really feeling the convictions that He's laid on our hearts, and walking in that.
And you're not, when you talk about an intimacy fast, you're not talking about sex necessarily, where a lot of people hear that word and that's what it means to them. You're talking about guarding your heart.
Yes.
Really.
Definitely.
Your heart and mind. As a social media producer here, you're spearheading this campaign. What are the challenges of that and what do you need?
The challenges of spearheading this on social, well, I mean, I'm sure this is an uncomfortable topic, you know, singleness and sex and dating, especially for the church. But this is just an opportunity for us to get honest and to get real, because we need to be real in order to heal. And I'm just really encouraging people to unhook themselves from the world. That's where I was. I was constantly believing the lies from the world. And then thankfully, God is so faithful and He just called me back to His word. So unhooking myself from the world, hooking myself to the word. And that's what I really hope and pray that people take away from this campaign.
Well, it's a wonderful concept for anyone in general in life, you know, for maybe you're not someone who dates at this point in your life, but just to unhook yourself from the world and get into the Word is a great thing. Well, if you'd like more information about the Unhooked campaign, go to cbn.com/unhooked, and there you can get your 40-day devotional. It's free. And in it, you're going to find answers to sex and dating. Plus, we have exclusive content from our relationship experts. So be sure to visit cbn.com/unhooked, or you can call our toll-free number to find out more. It's 1-800-700-7000. And one more thing, Ashley is featured in a 1-hour special that's airing on our CBN News channel this Valentine's Day. So that's what she's going to be doing on Valentine's Day. And for more information on that, again, go to cbnnewschannel.com. Sounds like a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for people to really get real.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Thanks, Terry.
Well, still ahead, we've got your email questions. One viewer writes, my mother-in-law causes so much confusion and family drama. How do we love her when she's the source of so many issues? Another round of your questions and some honest answers. It's coming up, so don't go away. Time for your questions and some honest answers. Pat, this first one comes from a viewer who says, my mother-in-law causes so much confusion and family drama. My husband doesn't speak about it often, but I know it bothers him. I know the Bible says not to be angry or that's sin, but I'm so angry at her. How do I find the peace of God, and how do we love her when she's the source of so many family issues?
All right, first of all, your husband, it's his mother, and he needs to deal with it. But at the same time, the Bible says have nothing to do with an angry man, and I'm sure that means an angry woman as well. You know, you can drive yourself crazy with that, and your husband needs to deal with it, but you shouldn't have to suffer this. You can love, but you don't have to have an influence like that driving you crazy all the time. You just don't have to. And I think that the biggest thing, when your mother-in-law starts all that harangue and stuff to upset you so much, just zip your mouth and don't answer. Don't say anything. Just smile and say, and don't,
A wise word.
That is. I mean, quiet. Yeah. All right, because otherwise you're going to fight. You're going to say, you don't mean that, do you? That's terrible, blah, blah, blah. No, just
Yeah, well, she can also split up the husband and wife by the.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
well, a lot of mother-in-laws want to do just that. You stole my precious little boy away, and I'm going to get him back from you. Kind of. Yeah, okay.
This is LaDonna, who says, our friend of 32 years passed away. I had a dream about him, and he was earnestly trying to tell me something. I told his sister-in-law about it, and she said her husband had the exact same dream. Is this a message from God since we both had the same dream? And if so, what does it mean when you can't hear what they're saying?
I really am not an interpreter of dreams, and I can't, you know, Daniel could, but at this point I can't. But it does seem like there's something in that situation that you need to be aware of. And it may be the Lord is trying to, so I think I would ask the Lord, please tell me what it is you're trying to tell me. Tell me clearly so I'll understand it. All right.
Yeah, this is Daryl, who says, I lost my job after 16 years and had a nervous breakdown. I'm struggling with depression and anxiety. I need help with my mental health. What do I do after working for the same place for so long?
Well, your life needs to be in Jesus, not in your sport, your profession, your work environment. And you had the wrong God, and you had the wrong focus on your life. Get it back to Jesus, and in Him you will find peace. Well, that's all the time we've got. Thank you for those questions. We leave you with our Power Minute from Matthew. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven.
Well, tomorrow we're joined in studio by Duck Dynasty's Phil Robertson. Boy, the two of you together, I don't want to miss that, and neither do you.
It'll be great fun. He's a Bible expert. We'll see you tomorrow with the Duck Commander. You don't want to miss it.